On today's show, Michael Feir reviews The Tunnel Runner's audio drama. This is from the PlayME podcast. And AMI's Leanne Brown stops by to justify her love of all things Snoopy, capped off even, get this, with her Snoopy-themed wedding. I wonder what the cake was like.
This is Kelly and Company.
Well, I'd like to welcome you to the program wherever you're listening in on AMI Audio. Maybe you're viewing us over on YouTube or checking out the podcast. Subscribe, and while you're in there, maybe give us a rating and review. I'd like to welcome my co-host for the program, Brock Richardson, joining us from Kitchener, Ontario here in Canada. Mr. Richardson, good day.
Good day. How are you?
Awesome. Brock Richardson, the host of the Neutral Zone podcast. Look for that, please, on your podcast feeds. And also, I have our technical producer for the show, Nazreen Abdul-Majid. Niz, we're going to get into our poll results a little later in the show. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm ready for them.
Okay. Well, I got something for you to be ready for. Get ready for this, guys. This is from the New York Post. This is about a humiliated bride who was completely upstaged at her own wedding after hungry guests snubbed the upscale vegan dinner that was offered. And what they did is ordered pizza to go around. Now, she took to Reddit, the emotionally distraught bride, while crying in the bathroom as these events unfurled. She wrote that she and her husband spent nearly $15,000 to make the menu that had offerings such as mushroom Wellington, truffle risotto, and roasted vegetable tarts. Now, she also noted, we deliberately didn't mention on the invitation that the food was vegan because we wanted people to enjoy it without any prejudice, as she wrote. Now, Nazreen, I'm coming to you first on this. Is this where this lady and her husband-to-be went wrong?
So let me just understand. Just because it wasn't vegan, it is vegan, they ended up getting pizza?
Yeah, so family members
Because that
brought
that
pizza
is
in.
ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I mean, you can't just suck it up for one day. Yeah,
Mm,
I know how it is. We spend so much on weddings. It was insane when it came to planning for a wedding, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You'd think people would have the a decent respect, just an ounce of respect for the bride and groom, just to kind of suck it up for one evening. I what bothers me is that you're always going to have somebody to complain about one little thing. And even if it's just the food, man. It's like
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
serious. Go to
I didn't know you
go to a
had that
Pizza
kind
Hut
of option.
at the end of the night
Exactly.
and you're
Leave
good.
early, which people
Leave
often do
early.
anyway.
Exactly.
Brock,
Yeah.
you and I have talked about open bars and things like that. That the father of the groom paying for father of the bride paying for weddings and stuff like that. Interesting things that are from in the past, way back in the past, that are no longer handled that way. You see this kind of thing. We're trying something different. 5-course vegan meal, and you have family who is not keen to go green, including the bride's brother in this case, as she watched in horror and as her brother and a bunch of the family walked in with 20 pizzas announcing real food for everyone. Now, of course, the furious
Oh,
bride went after her brother and jumped in his face about this while people were taking photos and joking about the food. Even the mother-in-law posted on Facebook about how her son's wedding was saved by pizza because the bride tried
Oh
to
my
force
God.
everyone to eat rabbit food. And you know how it ended, Brock. Bride
Rabbit
uh,
food.
crying in tears, and the husband and pizza accomplices were kicked out by the groom. Of course, the family now says they're stuck up and they should have warned people about the vegan food. And they're also been branded snobs by the clan. Mr.
so
Richardson, your thoughts?
so here's the thing. I have to think that the reason they did this was because they wanted to make like a spectacle of the situation wrongly. Because I agree totally with Niz that like if you're not gonna eat the food, go do it afterwards. Like, have a little bit of respect, a little bit of sense not to do it in the moment. So for me, I think this was totally done with intention of like, we're gonna prove the bride wrong and everybody's gonna be on our side because the vegan food, whatever your take on it is, totally, totally, totally
Hmm.
disrespectful and wrong entirely.
Isn't it gauche
Yeah.
to ask what the food is before you go to a wedding, as if that is part of your
100%.
decision to be there? Isn't that kind of like, are you kidding me? So to me, this is normal that they would keep that to themselves. And
I've
I thought it was their wedding, Niz. Like, can't they
yeah,
have what
when
they want?
I think it's so funny because I didn't think people cared that much about the food at weddings. When I sent out my invitations, I got questions from people, "Oh, what's the food going to be like?" And I'm like,
Good
"It's none of your
grief.
business. If I
That's
want to
right.
serve steak, you're going to get steak. If I want to serve broccoli, you're going to get broccoli." But yeah, I've been to weddings before where I didn't like the food per se. I just ate afterwards. It's not that serious. And
Yeah.
for you to just care about the food and just go on with your night, I think it's just it baffles me.
And to act
That's
insulted by the bride and groom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why people
No.
put on their invitations, do you have any dietary restrictions? You either check yes, no, it's up to the bride and groom to understand that it's you've got some
Mhm.
audacity to ask the bride what the food's going to be like. I have the same kind of issue when people come to you and say, "Is it going to be an open bar at your wedding?" Like again, you go back to, is that the reason you're coming? Because it's open or
Exactly.
not? Like the
Yeah.
Like,
reason
is
you're
that how
coming
you're
is to
gonna
celebrate
decide
the
if you're gonna
marriage.
come or not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we all know
Yeah.
we all know our own food sensitivities, things that we don't like, we don't won't eat, and you kind of know the people. The reason you're at this wedding is you know these people, and if you're showing up not anticipating they might do something, or you might kind of have a problem with the food they're having, I'd be embarrassed to say that and have someone say, "Is
Yeah.
that the real reason you're coming? Like, good grief, stay
Mhm.
home." And you're not paying for the food. If you don't like it, don't eat it. Try stopping and saying, "Hey, you know what? The power's mine. I don't have to eat it," Mike Fair, as we welcome him in. Our audio entertainment discussion is coming up here in a moment. And Michael Fair's got a great audio podcast we're going to be talking about. But, Mike, where do you stand on this as a blind person? Like, you go to a wedding, it's not like you check these things out. It's not like you peruse all the food as it's coming in. I'm sure you've been in a
No,
position where sometimes it's been a downright surprise.
absolutely. And I mean, it's someone else's occasion. I would never put what I had there as my decision, whether it was even a good occasion or not. Like it's only a small part of what's going on.
It's
If you don't,
unbelievable.
yeah, like if you don't like this stuff, I mean, certainly don't make this big a deal out of it as this family seems to have. That
Mhm.
is really insulting.
Mike, have you ever been close enough to actually ask ahead? Like, I mean, often if you're close enough in the circle, you'll hear, we're thinking of having sandwiches. Or roast beef is going to, because sometimes people get all excited what they're going to do and they share that. Have you found that that happens more in your life or not as much and you just don't care? I was raised, you would never ask that. That's like being invited to dinner and saying, "Well, it depends what you're going to have." What?
I mean, if you're involved with the people, like closely with the people that are getting married, then chances are, I think that you'll probably hear something of what the food would be in advance. But that would be about as far as it would go. I mean, and you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would never have any entertained thoughts of having veto power on things if I didn't like it. I mean, there's maybe there's some sort of bread or bun, something like that, or maybe it's just I'll just
Mhm.
wait until later. Right?
Okay.
But,
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for weighing in on this. It sort of seemed to me a little shocking, a little surprising, and a change of the times. Nizreen, we will talk to you in a little bit about social media stuff because you've got some cool things in reporting back on the poll we did.
Sounds good. To sum it up, we're
Well,
perfect guests for a wedding. To sum
I
it up.
think so. The lack of
Yeah.
complaining, the acceptance of whatever they feed. Now, there's mud pies, guys. We
Invite
got them
us.
fresh this morning out of thanks, Niz.
Thanks.
And as mentioned, social media. So follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. AMI. Mike joins Brock and I now to have a little discussion about audio entertainment as he brings to us every couple of weeks on the show. Mike, it's been a long time since you've checked out the PlayME podcast. The new 7-part Tunnel Runners podcast drama has hit the podcast feed. Let's start, before we get talking to you about it, with what you get from the podcast feed. This is an actual teaser from the CBC feed. This is from the intro to the podcast.
The thing I want you to know is this. Fear has always controlled me. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of death.
Welcome to the subway tunnels. Let's go this way.
Exploring new places gave me them all. I love the sensation of looking fear in the eye. It's my greatest motivation and my biggest enemy. I can't explain it.
That's the station ahead.
Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of death.
Incredible piece of work. I've had a chance to hear this, Mike, a little bit of it. You're further deeper into it than I am, but I'm always, as a broadcast person, intrigued by sound. What runs through the core of this audio drama?
So basically, this is about community and what happens when you can't fit into normal life or you choose to escape. There's so many things here. Basically, Cam is the protagonist in this. He has mental illness, and he basically decides that his troubled home life. He's got anxiety, and his sister, teenage sister, basically has no patience left for this. And the brother's getting all this special attention, and she's stuck, kind of holding the bag. There's the mom is busy, and basically, so he tries to escape. He's inspired by that YouTube clip we just heard was from a YouTube influencer who is featured in the podcast and in the drama. And basically, it's what happens when your mind is manipulated by all these different things, by influencers, by uh, the family, the home life is bad, so you try to escape and you find another community. But what are their motivations? What are their agendas? Are they sympathetic, really, or do they have things going on that they want to involve you in?
And we really do have such influence on, the promise of YouTube and influencers. Like, whatever they say, a lot of us say, well, because this person says this, I'm going to jump on board or off of it.
Yep, exactly. So that this is 16-year-old Cam with his mental, freight that he's carrying around. We see him get humiliated in school. He has an unrequited crush on another character, and so he's struggling with teenage life. And this looks like an escape. This looks like a chance. Following this guy's goes underground essentially, and there are tunnels under Toronto. So basically, it's what is down there, what is beyond the places where we can access, right? And in this case, in this fictional setting, it's a community of people that are living underground because they can't find spots in life above ground. They can't find purchase, no housing, all the it really speaks to a lot of the problems we're having,
Hmm.
in society and what happens,
What
when
sold you
people are
on it
pushed
right
too
off the
far.
bat, Mike? Like when you and I
The-
talked about it, when I said, "Hey, Mike, have you heard of this?" Because obviously know your familiarity with the program. We've talked about the show before here on Kelly and Company. So I kind of thought, oh, Mike would like that. Me, I'm grabbed by the sound. I'm grabbed by underground tunnels and stuff. Like we talk about the sewers under Paris, France, and the history behind that stuff has always fascinated me. It's funny because I can't stand the thought of being down there and a rat running across my foot or whatever,
oh
or
geez,
dropping on
yeah.
me. So I got
Yeah.
intrigued right off the bat. And even in there, you hear the subway riding right off the start of the show, things that people around Toronto, and I'm sure other major cities where there's subways, you hear about these things. I remember a few years ago, the boy that was seen sleeping on the top of the subway train. But what grabbed you to make you go and listen to this thing? And then what what did you feel? I mean, obviously there's more story when you have multiple episodes than,
Oh
hey,
yes.
guys on the back of a train. Hey, the guy's going down underground in Toronto, and look, there's tunnels.
And they did that part of it so well. Like the trailer was well thought through. It really
Yes.
engages you right from the start. Even that brief part we heard, it extends farther, and you hear a bit more of the characters that are met, the underground people. The going underground, going where you're not supposed to go. They really did a good job of giving you a taste. And then of course it broadens out when you start listening to it. You hear the characters and their issues and what happens when you try to live underground. They deal with that too, and that was intriguing. How realistic are they going to go with this? This basic false premise, right? That
How
that there's a
realistic did you
community
find
under.
it at first? You're further ahead than me. I actually felt where I was questioning, I wonder if those things are there. I wonder if these are some openings that no, 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 this is a written up story made up, but it was done, and I'm not one for fantasy and all that, so I found it believable.
Yeah, well, I mean, they covered a lot. They answered the basic questions. How are you going to dig more tunnels that you because you can't just limit yourself to the room already there. People will discover you right away. So of course you need more tunnels. Well, there's a failed engineering student who's part of this community, and she is obviously helping with some of that. But I mean, how skilled is she? She dropped out of engineering, right? What's going on there? How safe is it underground? Right? You got all these details that are kind of glimpsed at, the cooperation, the food, the how do you get supplies, where you go on scavenging runs, right? How do you test people? How do you make darn sure that you're letting people in if you decide to let them in, that they aren't going to blow your cover? Obviously, if this was discovered, I mean, there'd be very quick work to try and get these people out, right? So how do you balance safety with the desire to help, and
Mm,
what are the issues there, and what are the motivations, and that's all explored as you go deeper into the story, all these characters that he meets, and they have different issues, different history. Why are they down there? What drove them down there? uh, all of that is looked into, and I like that about this drama. The characters are well fleshed out, even the ones that only seem to be there briefly. You get a sense of them as more full people than I would have thought you could put in, because each episodes are like 20 odd minutes each, like they're not terribly long, but a lot is packed into them, and apparently there's a
mhm,
lot of Easter eggs in there for people to
hmm,
find as well, like little
yeah.
sounds of Toronto, sounds of different stations. What I read a magazine article about this, and there's a lot apparently going on that might be worth an extra listen, extra paying attention to try and find.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and of course you hear as the train's going, the typical Toronto, and I won't say unique to Toronto. I don't know. I haven't ridden every subway system. The rail sound that we know. Ooh, gosh, that's hard on the ears. And where you're turning in the U part of the subway system down there from Yonge Street to University, that kind of thing. Um, Michael, community very much explored here, but it's all about trust and desperation to fit in could be a taken advantage of here. You had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, basically he feels that he has no future in the above ground, right? I mean, he gets to a point where he just feels like he's got to just escape. His anxiety propels him, uh, and it drives him, in dealing with this. He's actually facing his fears head on, and managing, because he has to, because if he wants to belong in this community, you have to pass these tests that they do, to one of which is climbing onto a very tall crane, and being up there where you're not, again, not supposed to be, and looking down from up there, right? So I mean, he has to pass some pretty big tests to be accepted, and people have their own agendas, and some of them want him in, some of them want him out, some of them are
Right. Yep.
worried about various different things.
Um, Brock, when you hear us describing this, talking about it, and I feel for me, obviously as a blind person, this is not something easily I could do, go wandering around or gain what I'm getting listening to this story. It's a lot of time visuals give everything away. Here you have to utilize your imagination. But hearing this and thoughts of, hey, I'm in a wheelchair. I wouldn't be down there able to do this, according to what these guys are saying. Does it intrigue you more or almost a source of frustration due to the curiosity?
No, that's where the more you give in these audio pieces, the more I'm excited about it. Like the more detail you give, the more understanding. Like you said it earlier, you wouldn't want a rat, crawling on your foot. No, I wouldn't want it crawling on my foot either. But if you could sell that to me in the story, in making those sounds make me believe so that I can sort of jump into that fantasy, full well knowing I'm not going to be able to physically do this.
How about you, Mike? We talked, as I said, what intrigued you? And it sounds like it's delivered for you.
Yeah, it really has. Like the sounds were amazing. Like that sound design is so well thought through. The dialogue, the characters. Like this was designed by the creators of the PlayME podcast, right? So they've listened to a ton of audio dramas and things, and it's neat to see them take a crack at something like this. They did a bang up job. And really, for me, it is like I couldn't do this underground stuff. I wouldn't survive long down there at all. I'd get lost, I'd get turned around, and you get turned around in tunnels, you can't hear through them very easily. To figure it, you don't have an overall sense. I would not live long, but I'm still very curious about. This is a dystopian situation that people are basically choosing to exist in. And why? Are things that bad up here that there's nothing
Hmm.
else they could do? You kind of question all of that. And for me, that's what intrigues me. Like, how far would you go if things really got tough for you
And
up
so much
above,
of it,
right?
as you said, Mike, speaks to what we're dealing with now.
Exactly. There's so much
Yeah.
in here about what it takes to belong, what it should cost, all of that, like basic needs versus luxuries, and what they eventually push him to do by episode 4, where I've gotten to. I don't want to spoil it for you, but wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting show. Love the work that these folks do. Thanks, Mike. You can find the Tunnel Runners episodes plus much more excellent audio drama by checking out the PlayMe podcast. And you can do that using your favorite podcast app. Mike appears every couple of weeks here to discuss audio entertainment on the program. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it very much. And speaking of podcasts, remember to check ours out, please, using your favorite podcast platform of choice. And when you're in there, give us a rating and review. We'd appreciate it. Going to ask Nizreen to join Brock and I here. Niz, let's talk social media because we've been doing polls. We've been asking
Mm-hmm.
people to weigh in, and yesterday we had a tremendous conversation on the show with Tiffany, and I'll let you carry us through as to the poll question that we put out.
Yeah, so we posted a poll question asking you guys, if you had the opportunity, would you sail around the world? And the options we gave out was yes, definitely, no, I get seasick, and only if it's a short trip. The results were 67% for yes, definitely, and 33% only if it's a short trip. So I guess nobody gets seasick anymore.
Wow,
What
wow.
about you,
Mr.
Brock?
Richardson, Tiffany lives on a boat now. They're on a sailboat. There's the gist of the story. I don't know if you saw the piece. And as Nizreen said, what about you, Brock? Where do you weigh in?
Yes, definitely, 100%. I loved being on boats, and I always loved being towards the water. So I am for sure. Yes, definitely.
I could only
Mm,
do it a short time. I'd like the in and out, but
yeah.
I certainly would love to look forward to being able to go on a, month or two long trip if it was possible. Niz?
Hmm. Yeah, and if you want to participate more in our Twitter poll questions, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. And we're also available on YouTube if you missed an episode, and subscribe to us there. Make sure you also message us, DM us on Twitter and Instagram because I'll be checking those out. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you guys.
Okay, well, Nazreen's going to hang around with us because we've got this engaging conversation coming up, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that being a Peanuts Gang fan, but more so as we welcome Leanne Brown in to talk to us a little bit about. Well, okay. Let me try to explain this. Leanne is got this love for Snoopy, the iconic beagle from Charlie Brown. Um, of course, he's got the big imagination and his kooky charms. Leanne, I really find it amazing. I'm thinking back to when I was a kid. Which one of the Peanuts gang I liked. And what was my kick about it? Welcome to the show, and why don't you direct us here? Where did this love of Snoopy start?
Well, I'm glad to be back. I have to say that normally my Keiko contributions were the roundtable discussions, and I have to say I like this one much better because I already know what the subject is this time. So I'm pretty happy about this. And before I get into it, I'm going to say I'm rocking my Joe Cool wear today, where I have a black baseball cap that has an embroidered Snoopy doing his Joe Cool with his Joe Cool sweatshirt and his dark glasses. And just coming off of our trip from Victoria, I was able to find in a gift shop there a purple Joe Cool shirt, but he actually is now wearing a Canadian flag sweater
Oh,
instead of his usual Joe Cool. So I had to buy that.
oh my
My
gosh, that's awesome.
yes, yeah. So the love for peanuts probably started when I was a kid, 10 or 11 years old, I think it was when I got my first, little softback collection of comics. I believe it was called Here Comes Snoopy, as part of my Christmas gifts. And from there, it was just my brother and I would go to the library and we would take out the large format, what they call Peanuts Parades books, which are like an 8 by 10 large format issues of the comics. And we would just sit in one of our rooms, paging through these things and just laughing ourselves stupid at some of the ways that Charles Schultz, with simple pen strokes, could get across emotion. And it was just, and my mother would come down the hall and hear us laughing ourselves stupid and look in the room, see what we were doing, and just roll her eyes and walk back out. So it was a great bonding moment between my brother and I, and that just spawned a love of all things Snoopy and Peanuts, right up until, yes, as we all know, I actually threw myself a Peanuts themed wedding.
We'll get to that in a sec. I gotta ask these two. Nazreen, Brock, you guys know who Snoopy is. Like, is this something that
Yes.
you liked as children?
Yes, 100%. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
as
I
far
wouldn't.
as Leanne, but
Yeah.
yes.
I wouldn't say as obsessed as Leanne. I just remember her team's picture profile as, I think it was Snoop, right?
It was at one point, yes.
Yeah, at one
It's
point
not at the moment, but it probably was, or it was Linus, one or the other.
you traded him.
Um, and
How dare
Linus is
you?
the blanket.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah,
And the
Linus is
philosopher,
blanket.
yes.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir. No, sorry, that's Peppermint Patty. Leanne, when we say obsessed, of course, meant certainly not in an insulting way. Sometimes people take it negative.
No,
Would you
yeah,
have
no.
classified yourself at any point in life, including now, as obsessed? The wedding, everything?
Um, I don't know. I guess a lot of people would. I don't know if I consider myself obsessed. I mean, behind me in this shot is bookshelves full of the Peanuts classic Peanuts they called it, and they re-released every single comic that he's ever drawn in dual hardbound collectors things. And so I mean that was a bit of an expensive jaunt and took a couple of years to
Hmm.
complete. So I guess yes. I mean, and I threw a Peanuts themed wedding, so I guess yes, I'm obsessed.
Okay, so when we talk about the collection, let's start there, then go to the wedding. What in comparison, like, I don't know if there's shows that you go to, buy things from there. How do you get stuff? And in comparison to other people that you know and talk to in social media or online or wherever, um, what investment do you put in it? Would you say an average above it? And I don't think you can put cost of money on it. I'm not asking how much do you spend a year on this or how many things do you buy. I'll let you pick how you'd classify yourself.
Um, I don't think I'm an over investor. I mean, my entire place is not decked out in Peanuts from top to bottom. The books, I mean, I'm a big book fan in general, whatever it happens to be. So I'm in bookstores or I'm on websites routinely. And this particular collection was just one of those things where I happened to be on the Indigo site one day and saw it and went, oh, these are really cool. And for all of the hundreds of softbound versions of these books that I had, I figured maybe this is a way to sort of adultify my
Yeah,
obsession and get
yeah.
these really nice, hardbound, all lined up on the shelf together. And, then I could donate or get rid of all of the, ratty, different, what's the word I'm looking for?
The kind of the
They
stuff
get
that
worn out. Yes.
replace. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but because
Yeah.
I take it you want to enjoy the stuff, you want to look at it, so it's going to have that happen. To tell us about the wedding.
So the wedding, I don't even know where I came up with the idea. I was a couple of years ago now. It hit me one day and I went, well, this could be fun. I mean, I know a lot of people do theme weddings, they do Halloween based weddings, they do whatever, and it just seemed like a natural for me. I mean, I got some pretty weird looks from my family, but they think I'm pretty weird to begin with, so they just kind of rolled their eyes and went, yeah, okay, that's Leanne, and just started rolling with it. And everybody, because they know of how I feel about these things, they all chipped in. We had two members of my wedding party that custom built Snoopy's doghouse as the card draw thing and
Oh,
put a stuffed Snoopy on top of it. And my best friend, who is a painter by profession, painted it up for me. I see that, yes, there's the Snoopy box there. And my favorite part of it was when I came up with the idea for being an Italian family. Of course, you have the bonbonnieres that sit on everybody's plate when they walk into the dinner hall for the dinner and the reception. And I went, well, why not do this thing? Because part of my childhood too. With my brother, was always sitting down and watching the yearly peanut specials, whether it was Charlie
Mm-hmm.
Brown Thanksgiving or
Yeah.
Charlie Brown Christmas, Easter, all of those things. And I went, okay, the Thanksgiving feast that they threw, where Snoopy and Woodstock and the people that were putting this dinner together for everybody that had invited themselves to Chuck's house for Thanksgiving, was toast, buttered toast, pretzels, jelly beans, and popcorn. So I was able to find the little mini toasts, the mini Melba toasts, and all of the other things, and
Oh,
put them into those custom boxes and replicate the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving feast, because I was
Love
thankful
it.
for all of my friends and family being there, and it was hilarious.
I'm out of
I had
time
the
to ask
Snoopy
you too
shoes,
much.
I had everything. Yeah,
Oh my God. And I'm out of time to
yeah,
ask you about the cake or get into our buddy Woodstock. Leanne, fantastic. We'll do this again. Thank you.
you bet. Thanks.
And yes, I know it beats the round table. I know. AMI's Leanne Brown was here for a Snoopy collection. It was tremendous. Niz, Brock, thank you guys for being with me on the show today.
Happy
Thank
Friday.
you.
We'll see Brock in a couple weeks. Niz will be back with us on Monday. On Parasport Nation coming up ahead, Alex and Nathan go head-to-head, debate topics from the parasport world, such as, are there too many medals at the Paralympics? How far is too far when it comes to classification and doping? All this coming up ahead. You can also find that available as a standalone podcast or on YouTube. On our show next, Marco Pasco highlights the use of tactile surface warning indicators and how often they're actually done right. Psychotherapist Fern Lellum is back, and so is Michael Babcock with our Tech Talk. Email us at kellyco@ami.ca and call us at 1-866-509-4545. Now, get out of here, will ya?
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.